I got robbed.
Yeah, I'm finna take these two out of me.
Kodak Black got the streets talking after allegedly tearing into Johnny Deng's store over fake jewelry claims.
Even the FBI involved to investigate for that case. FBI came personally and talked to me. They say this is a very big group.
This tension been brewing, but nobody thought it would blow up like this. Now footage circulating, both sides speaking, and the pressure rising. How did it get this far? Let's break it down. The Kodak and Johnny connection. Johnny Deng is not just a jeweler, he is the jeweler. When you start running down the biggest chains, the most ridiculous grills, the most outrageous custom pieces that have ever shown up dripping on a rapper's face or neck or wrist, there is a very short list of names that keep coming back around, and Johnny Deng is sitting at the very top of that list almost every single time. His spot, Johnny Deng & Co., has been the destination, the actual destination, for rappers who got real money to spend and something to prove. And for over 25 years, this man has been delivering on that at a level that almost nobody else in the game has even come close to touching. The relationship between Johnny Deng and the rap world did not just materialize out of thin air. It was built over decades of putting in work that turned a Vietnamese immigrant who touched down in Houston with nothing into the undisputed king of hip-hop jewelry in America. His clientele reads like a who's who of the rap game. Names that have shown up in music videos, on red carpets, on magazine covers, in some of the most viral rap moments the internet has ever produced. He did not get there by accident. He got there because the product was real, the craftsmanship was consistent, and the relationships he built with his clients went deeper than a simple transaction. Kodak Black is one of those clients. These two have had a relationship going back years, and it is the kind of relationship that has produced some genuinely unforgettable pieces. One of the most talked about came during the COVID era when Johnny Deng built Kodak a custom diamond mask. Not a cloth mask, not a surgical mask, but a mask covered in over 30 carats of VVS diamonds. Johnny Deng himself broke down how it went.
Did you know I make $30,000 diamonds COVID mask for Kodak Black? When Kodak Black just got out of jail, he called me for the grill right at the COVID time.
And then he laid out exactly where the idea came from.
I got the idea, right? Hey Kodak, let me make you the very first diamond mask. It's over 30 carat diamond, all VVS. Thousands of diamonds.
That right there is the level of access, the level of trust, and the level of creative energy that defined how Kodak and Johnny Deng moved together. The COVID mask was just the beginning. The two kept moving together long after that, with Kodak pulling up to Johnny Deng repeatedly for new pieces. In late 2024, Kodak scooped a $50,000 permanent multicolored diamond grill from Deng. A piece so elaborate, so extra in its execution, that it immediately became a whole topic the moment it hit the internet. And then, on Instagram Live, Kodak pulled it out. Not because of fraud, not out of anger, not because he felt like somebody had played him.
Yeah, I'm finna take these two out of me.
He took it out because, in his own words, it was too big, too extra, too flashy for the vibe he was on at that point in time.
Go back, wall. Go, big dumb. Man, like, y'all gotta kind of brow up.
He said he wanted simpler, solid gold slugs. He laughed about it. He called Johnny Deng the king of bling. He kept it moving. Then in May of 2025, Johnny Deng personally flew out to Miami to pull up on Kodak with a fresh set of custom grills, what became known as the Skittles grills, a multicolored gemstone design that Complex covered as one of the best jewelry moments of that entire month. The two linked up, chopped it up, laughed, and the whole collab got documented and celebrated by the culture. That was the state of the Kodak Black and Johnny Deng relationship heading into 2026. No static, no accusations, no beef bubbling under the surface, just one of the longest running client-jeweler relationships in hip-hop history, operating exactly the way it always had. And then, Sauce Walka opened his mouth. The footage of Kodak and Johnny Deng together at the shop tells you everything you need to know about the energy between them. When Kodak pulled up to the store, the vibe was loose, celebratory, and dripping with the kind of easy confidence that comes from two people who have built something real together over a long period of time. Kodak was talking about events, about the community, about the pieces he was getting cooked up, and at one point, he and Johnny were going back and forth about diamonds, the way only people who have dropped serious bread together can.
Man, this is big diamond looking crazy. Yeah. Crazy. This is big money. This is what we call honeymoon.
And then a beat later.
Yeah.
You need only one GIA diamond to get married.
Yeah,
he got a whole mile with GIA certified.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That footage, two men laughing about GIA certified diamonds, about honeymoons, about how wild the money looks sitting on somebody's teeth, tells you everything about what Johnny Deng and Kodak Black actually were to each other. They were not two men beefing behind the scenes. They were not client and vendor with some simmering dispute underneath. They were collaborators. They had built genuine love over years of doing real business together at the highest level of the game. That is the foundation this whole story sits on, and what makes the controversy that blew up in 2026 so remarkable is just how far removed it is from everything that foundation actually represents. Sauce Walka drops the confession. To understand why the internet went absolutely feral the way it did in the spring of 2026, you gotta go back to March 17th of that year, and you gotta understand what Sauce Walka is, what he represents in Houston, and why his words carried enough weight to start shaking the foundation of a 25-year empire in a matter of days. Sauce Walka is a Houston rapper, and that distinction matters here more than it would in almost any other context. Houston has its own codes, its own culture, its own unspoken rules around loyalty, around money, around who you are to the people who knew you before the fame hit. And in that world, Johnny Deng was not just some jeweler who happened to be posted up in the city. He was a Houston institution, the jeweler of Houston rap. The relationship between Johnny Deng and the Houston scene was supposed to be untouchable because it was built on something that should have been beyond question. 20 years of business, hundreds of thousands of dollars spent, and a loyalty that Sauce Walka believed deeply was supposed to run both ways. On March 17th, 2026, Sauce Walka hopped on Instagram Live and blew the whole thing up. He announced publicly, in detail and on site, that he was cutting off a 20-year relationship with Johnny Deng. And he did not leave the reasons hanging in the air. He laid them out, piece by piece, with the kind of specificity that immediately made everybody lean in and pay attention. According to Sauce Walka, Johnny Deng's team had been moving lab-grown CVD diamonds, chemically vapor-deposited stones that get grown in a laboratory in a matter of weeks, while charging full premium prices for what clients were told were natural VVS diamonds. Real stones, the real thing, the kind of product the price tag they were charging for would actually justify. The gap between a natural diamond and a CVD lab-grown diamond is not some minor technical detail when you are operating at the level Sauce Walka was at. Natural diamonds are formed over billions of years under pressure deep in the earth. Lab-grown diamonds, while chemically identical at the molecular level, are produced artificially in a controlled environment over a matter of weeks. The price difference between the two is significant, and the move of selling one while charging for the other, if true, is not just a shady business practice. That is fraud, straight up. Sauce Walka did not stop there either. He also accused Johnny Deng's operation of playing favorites with out-of-town celebrities, handing out free or deeply discounted promo pieces to famous names who would be seen in the jewelry publicly, while local clients who had been riding with the brand for years and had spent crazy amounts of money were being treated like they were secondary. In Sauce Walka's telling, the loyalty only ran one direction. He had dropped over $500,000 with Johnny Deng over the course of their relationship, and what he got back was a team that would not give him what he actually wanted. He wanted the biggest, most over-the-top grill design possible, and he felt like Johnny Deng's team kept landing short of the vision he had in his head. He put it plainly, Johnny Don't Want Have did nothing better than what I got in my mind. I want some of my money, and I want to go over the top. So he bounced, and he made the whole departure into a public statement. Sauce Walka switched his business to a jeweler named Plug Geo, commissioned a grill reportedly valued at over $1 million, and pulled his old Johnny Deng pieces off on camera, a deliberate theatrical severing that was designed to land exactly the way it did. Plug Geo added his voice to the allegations on top of that, claiming the practice of marking up lab-grown stones and passing them off with certifications was systemic across the operation, not some isolated incident that could be blamed on one bad actor on the team. The internet did not need much more kindling than that to catch fire. The allegation that one of the most legendary jewelers in hip-hop history had been sliding fake diamonds past loyal clients landed like a grenade in the culture. Comment sections flooded. Group chats went crazy. YouTube channels that had never touched a jewelry story in their lives were suddenly pumping out response videos. And the speculation about what this meant for Johnny Deng's $200 million empire, for his relationships with every celebrity client he had ever served, for his reputation and his legacy, all of it started moving at a pace the original allegations alone could never have produced by themselves. What Sauce Walka did was crack a door open, and once that door cracked, the internet did not just walk through it. It ran through it and started building an entirely different story on the other side, one that had almost nothing to do with what Sauce Walka had actually said. The internet runs with the narrative. In the days following Sauce Walka's original accusations, social media platforms flooded with videos making claims that went dramatically further than anything Sauce Walka had actually put out there. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Every platform was suddenly running some version of the same story, each one more extreme than the one before it. Videos claimed that Johnny Deng's Houston store had been raided by authorities, that multiple rappers had filed official fraud complaints, that Johnny Deng had been arrested and booked, that his whole operation was under federal investigation. The headlines were constructed to feel urgent, credible, and catastrophic, the kind of language engineered to trigger a very specific reaction in anybody who reads it, one that bypasses critical thinking and goes straight to the gut. This is exactly where Kodak Black's name got pulled into the story, because once the fabricated raid narrative was established and running, older footage of Kodak and Johnny Deng got yanked from its original context and repackaged to fit the new story. The clip of Kodak removing his $50,000 grill on Instagram Live in late 2024, the one where he was laughing and said it was too flashy and that he wanted simpler gold, got clipped and dropped into 2026 videos. The narration in those videos, when you actually sit down and listen to it carefully, does something wild. It admits the truth while drowning it under so much sensational framing that most viewers will scroll past the admission without ever registering what was actually said. The narration in at least one of these videos explicitly says, Kodak never said the grill was fake, not once. He didn't accuse Johnny Deng of scamming him, and it goes further, stating plainly that in 2026, Kodak Black says nothing, not a single post, no vandalism, no store visit, no confrontation, no accusation, nothing connecting Kodak Black to the Sauce Walka controversy in any meaningful way beyond the fact that both men had, at various points, spent their money at the same jeweler. The machine that turned Sauce Walka's genuine grievance into a global fraud scandal and then turned a completely unrelated Kodak Black moment into a vandalism story was moving at full speed with no brakes. And the man whose name was on the door of that store, whose legacy was getting demolished, one fabricated headline at a time, had not yet said a single word publicly. Johnny Deng fires back with his perspective. Johnny Deng is not somebody who moves in panic. The man who built a $200 million jewelry empire from nothing, who spent 25 years navigating the relationships, the money, the egos, and the volatility of the hip-hop world without torching a single significant bridge. That man does not clap back in the middle of the night. He does not hop on live in a moment of raw emotion and say things he is going to regret when the sun comes up. He measures his response. He constructs it with intention. And when he does speak, he speaks with the deliberateness of someone who knows exactly how much his words weigh when they land. On April 1st, 2026, Johnny Deng dropped an official video across his TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, and the response was picked up by local outlets, including Fox 26 Houston. The video was not chaotic. It was not defensive in the way that a guilty man gets defensive. It was calm, detailed, and direct. The kind of response only someone who knows the full story from the inside can actually deliver. He addressed the raid allegations first, and he did not sugarcoat it. He called what was circulating online fake and AI-enhanced stories all over social media, from allegations of fraud to even being raided by police. And then he took it further. He described what those stories actually were at their core, all intricately planted lies. He named who he believed was behind the campaign, not individual people specifically, but the categories they fell into, haters. He also made the point that a lot of the people spreading the fabricated content had either not considered or deliberately ignored. This was not the first time someone had tried to tear down what he had built. In 25 years at the top of the hip-hop jewelry world, there had been other moments, other attempts, other rumors and accusations that came and went, without leaving a lasting mark on the foundation he had constructed over decades of real work. His business had survived because it was built on something that could actually hold weight, real relationships with real clients who had seen the product firsthand, who knew what they had in their hands, and who kept coming back to spend more. His attorney mentioned the possibility of defamation action against the people responsible for the most egregious fabrications. Then he said something that hit different from the rest of it. He talked about seeing customers who still believed the fabricated stories even after everything, and the way he described his reaction said more than any long rebuttal could. There was no heat in it, no yelling, just the quiet disbelief of a man who has spent his entire adult life putting in real work, watching people choose to believe something that strangers on the internet cooked up over 25 years of documented, verified history. Johnny Deng was deliberate about what he did not do. He did not admit to any fraud. He did not acknowledge specific issues with any specific client beyond a general reference to competition trying to undermine his operation. He did not throw Sauce Walka's name into the response, and he did not try to publicly relitigate the specifics of that relationship. His attorney handled the legal dimensions. He handled the public perception, and in both cases, the approach was identical: steady, measured, and grounded in the evidence of what 25 plus years of real work actually looks like. On the side of all of this, the robbery of his Galleria store had been one of the reasons he had moved out of the mall in the first place.
I got robbed in my store in Galleria. That's one of the reasons I moved out of the mall. It's a big case. The people who robbed my shop, very professional.
He had spoken on that experience openly, breaking down how professional the group was, how the FBI personally came in to investigate the case, and how the scale of what happened led investigators to keep the whole inquiry quiet while they tracked the group. What's the truth? What's just speculation? At this point in the story, we gotta have a real conversation, not the kind that comes from a court filing or a police report, because none of those things exist in this situation, but the kind that comes from holding what the internet was screaming against what the actual evidence shows, and being straight up honest about where those two things do and do not line up. What we know is this: Kodak Black has been a genuine long-time client of Johnny Deng, going back years, with collabs that produced some of the most memorable custom pieces in recent hip-hop history. We know that in late 2024, Kodak took a grill out on Instagram Live and said it was too flashy, and that he laughed about it, showed no anger, made zero accusations, and kept calling Johnny Deng the king of bling. We know that in May 2025, Johnny Deng personally flew out to Miami to deliver a fresh set of custom Skittles grills to Kodak, a collab that Complex covered positively, and that the culture celebrated with no drama attached. And we know that in 2026, when the whole Sauce Walka situation and the wave of fabricated raid stories blew up online, Kodak Black posted nothing, said nothing, filed no complaints, made no store visits, sent no shots. His name got dragged into the controversy entirely by content creators who grabbed unrelated footage, slapped misleading narration on top of it, and built a clickbait title around a confrontation that never happened. The vandalism story does not exist because something popped off in real life. It exists because something was assembled, pieced together from fragments of real footage, real relationships, and real history. This is not something unique to Johnny Deng or Kodak Black as individuals, but the way it played out in this specific situation is worth locking in on, because it shows just how complete the fabrication process has become when you hand bad actors access to the tools that currently exist. The original kernel, Sauce Walka's accusations, was real. The anger was real. The money spent was real. The sense of betrayal, whatever its actual basis, was real in the sense that Sauce Walka genuinely felt it and put it out there. But everything that came after that, the raids, the arrests, the federal investigations, the Kodak vandalism story, reports say was constructed. Sauce Walka's grievances, whatever their ultimate truth turns out to be, are a different story, one that will get resolved over time through business decisions, through whatever legal processes may or may not follow, and through how the culture ultimately chooses to remember and interpret what was said. That story is real, and it is ongoing. The diamond fraud allegations are serious enough to deserve real reporting, real investigation, and real accountability if the evidence ever actually gets there. But the story of Kodak Black vandalizing Johnny Deng's store over fake jewelry, there is no footage, no report, no statement, nothing that suggests any version of that confrontation ever took place in any form. What actually exists instead is a 25-plus year relationship between a jeweler and one of his most well-known clients that, as of the most recent documented interaction between them, was fully intact, collaborative, celebratory even. Two men who have made each other's names bigger by doing real business together and who have given no indication that anything about that arrangement has changed. The internet built a story out of the wreckage of Sauce Walka's accusations, and it dropped Kodak Black's name into that story because his name carries weight and because old footage can be made to look like fresh beef if you cut it the right way and put the right title on top. The reality is quieter, less dramatic, and a whole lot more inconvenient for everyone who needed this to be the story it was sold as. Johnny Deng is still standing. His operation is still running. His attorney is moving on the most egregious fabrications. And Kodak Black, the man whose name got placed at the center of a vandalism story built entirely out of imagination, has not said a single word about any of it. But why do you think this narrative is spreading fast? Could the relationship between Kodak Black and Johnny Deng really be as solid as they make it look? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. For more videos like this, click on this next card on your screen.